So, you know, if you're looking at the business world right now, it's impossible to miss. Every major enterprise, they've experimented with AI. They've run pilots. They've invested a ton of money into tools. They've definitely dipped their toes in the water.
Right.
But there's this one huge and often fatal question. How do you move from just, dipping your toe in to actually swimming competitively?
Yeah.
How do these massive organizations turn all that scattered experimentation into something sustainable, scalable, and, well, something that actually generates value?
And that gap, that gap between a successful proof of concept and enterprise-wide adoption, that's often called the valley, where AI initiatives go to die, frankly.
Exactly.
Either the focus is purely on the technology or, and I think this is more common, they just fail to integrate with the daily workflows of the actual people who are supposed to use them.
Right. And that is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. Our source material gives us the actual blueprint. This meticulously planned 5-phase strategy designed by a group called Winning Team AI, or WTAI, for a major tech firm.
And this isn't just theory.
No, not at all. This is a concrete consulting engagement. They were hired to help this firm move past that initial curiosity and into confident, large-scale execution. And this is key, specifically embedding AI into their project management practice.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think our mission here is to really dissect this model because it's designed to be repeatable.
Yes.
And what's fascinating to me is the immediate shift in focus. Most AI projects stop at, did the tech work in a lab?
Right.
But this entire blueprint is about the process of embedding AI into the daily operating rhythm of the company, treating it like a strategic asset, not just some flashy tool or a science experiment.
The overall goal was super clear for the client. Drive efficiency, drive consistency, and ultimately make smarter, data-driven decisions across their huge portfolio of projects.
And they use this 5-phase structure to get there.
So, to really get the blueprint, I think we first have to understand the foundation. Who is WTAI and what were the exact goals they were hired to hit?
Absolutely. So Winning Team AI, they've sort of established themselves as this dynamic consulting group. They're focused less on building the raw AI models themselves and more on simplifying complexity and accelerating growth by just making AI practical, immediately useful.
They have this very human-centered approach to it. They build what they call custom AI agents and automation tools that act like dedicated digital teammates.
That phrase is so important.
It is.
A digital teammate. It just moves AI out of the R&D lab and puts it right on the project manager's desktop.
It's all about making AI practical, accessible, and, tying it directly to business outcomes you can actually measure.
Right. Whether you're a PM juggling 50 tasks or an HR person trying to draft compliant documents.
Exactly.
They're essentially building the bridge between these really complex, powerful AI models and just day-to-day operational use.
And their services are designed to help anyone who needs to synthesize information quickly. So entrepreneurs, project managers, but also specialized folks in HR, legal, finance.
All of them.
Okay, and this leads us right to the 4 pillars, the core objectives of this specific engagement. And this is where it gets really interesting because these targets are so specific and strategic.
Indeed. The first objective is foundational. It's very knowledge-centric, developing a centralized, high-impact prompt library tailored specifically to project management workflows.
And number 2 is all about using what you've already got, increasing the adoption and utilization of the client's own internally developed large language model, their LLM.
Objective 3 is pure change management. It's about establishing a repeatable engagement and enablement process, to keep users actively involved as new features get rolled out.
That's so critical for avoiding that, like feature fatigue.
Totally. And then number 4, which really sums up the whole mission, embedding AI into those daily workflows so it becomes automatic, not some separate tool you have to remember to go open.
So this focus, it raises a question, right? Why the heavy emphasis on prompt libraries and using the internal LLM?
Well, the answer points directly to maximizing the financial return on what were likely massive existing technology investments.
So they're not just bringing in shiny new tech.
Not at all.
They're making what the company already built actually work.
Precisely. I mean, if you've spent millions developing an LLM that's tailored to your own data and your security needs, you have to make sure people use it.
And the prompt library is the key to that.
It's the accessibility layer. It translates that complex technical power into an easy, consistent action for the project manager.
Okay, so instead of a PM having to figure out how to write some perfect 10-line prompt to draft a project status update
Right.
that also meets legal compliance and has the right financial metrics, they just pick a pre-vetted template from the library.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that move ensures consistency and security. A project manager using a vetted prompt, well, that guarantees the AI output meets all the internal standards, it saves time, and it stops people from accidentally feeding confidential data into a public model.
That's a huge point. You can have the best, most secure LLM in the world, but if your team doesn't know how to prompt it to save 2 hours on a report,
Then it's a failure.
it fails. The success here relies completely on building that internal capability and confidence and avoiding that trap of, being dependent on outside experts forever.
And that structured approach is how they turn those 4 objectives into a reality.
Which brings us to the backbone of this thing, the 5 deliberate phases designed by WTAI. This is the core blueprint for enterprise AI adoption.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Phase 1, discovery.
Right, discovery. It's all about getting a clear, data-driven understanding of where the organization is right now.
No assumptions.
Zero assumptions. The activities are super detailed. Assessing the existing AI footprint, all their tools, platforms, workflows, evaluating AI awareness and readiness across teams, and then crucially, finding those adoption gaps and friction points.
This phase establishes a strong baseline that's grounded in reality. And what's interesting is they're looking for the human pain points, not just, broken software.
What's an example of that?
Well, in a project management practice, they might find out that teams are spending 5 hours a week just manually merging data from different spreadsheets for status reports.
Ugh, I can feel that pain.
Right. That's the human problem the AI needs to solve. Without that data, everything else is just an educated guess.
Okay, so once they have that baseline, that painful reality of the current state, we move into phase 2, planning. This is where those insights get turned into a real, actionable roadmap.
Right. And the planning phase includes prioritizing the highest impact use cases that line up with real PM outcomes, defining strategies to fix the adoption gaps they found in phase 1, and creating a phased enablement plan.
The source material really emphasizes balancing speed with governance here.
It does.
But that balance point is where so many big projects fail. I mean, it sounds great in theory, but what stops this from getting bogged down in endless review cycles?
That's a great question. The usual failure point is just misalignment.
Okay.
So WTAI forces that alignment in phase 2. They get all the key stakeholders to agree on clear goals, metrics, and responsibilities before they build anything. So the result is a pragmatic plan that drives adoption quickly, yes, but it's adoption that's already scalable because the governance was built in from the start.
A plan that's scalable, not just fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so once the plan is locked, the heavy lifting begins in phase 3, architecting. This is where they build the actual foundation for success.
And this phase is, I would argue, the most critical for long-term survival because the activities here are systemic, they're administrative, they're cultural, they are not just technical.
Right.
It includes designing AI governance and review teams, setting up clear communication channels, and creating structured testing, training, and enablement events.
I like to use an analogy for this. Discovery finds the house, planning draws the blueprints. But architecting, that's building the foundation, the plumbing, the wiring.
That's a perfect analogy.
You mentioned governance and review teams. What does that actually look like? And why is that so important right now?
It's essential because AI output is just so fast. These governance teams, they set the guardrails. They stop a project manager from, say, accidentally feeding confidential client data into the AI or generating a document that isn't legally compliant.
So they're making sure the tool is both helpful and secure.
Helpful and secure. And they serve as the first line of review for any new prompts or use cases that get developed.
They're basically the process owners for the AI tool set.
Exactly. They also implement usage tracking, feedback loops, performance metrics, all here in phase 3. And this is when they actually stand up that prompt library and the integrations for the internal LLM. It ensures that AI adoption is supported by the right people, processes, and systems.
Not just the technology.
Right. If you skip this part, the whole thing breaks the second you try to scale it.
Because there's no infrastructure for consistency.
Mm.
Okay, so once that structure is stable, they move to phase 4, pilot.
The pilot. This is the controlled, real-world test drive. They launched the first few AI use cases with some selected representative teams, and they test the workflows and the prompts they developed.
This feels like the moment of truth.
Yeah.
Are they really prepared to scrap work if the feedback is bad? Or is this just checking a box?
Oh, they can't afford for it to be a box-checking exercise. It's structured as high-stakes risk mitigation. They're gathering hard user feedback and adoption data, and that lets them iterate and refine the whole process based on real usage.
So it's about rapid learning before a big, costly rollout.
Exactly, before you introduce a major operational risk.
Yeah.
And the key metric here isn't just, are people using it? It's, are they getting real value from it?
And that brings us to the final step in the blueprint. Phase 5. Stabilization and handover.
And this shifts the focus completely to long-term sustainability, internal ownership. It involves the smooth execution of all those refined processes, but now at scale. It's ongoing optimization based on the metrics from Phase 3, and then the critical knowledge transfer to the internal teams.
This is just like the hardest part. It requires a real cultural shift. I mean, it's easy to launch a new feature.
Much harder to make it the default way of working.
Yes.
It means embedding these AI tools into the organization's standard operating procedures, making it routine, not the exception. And the stated goal from WTAI here is explicit. The objective is not dependency on them. It is delivering demonstrable confidence, capability, and continuity for the client.
So they hand over the keys?
They hand over the keys, the maintenance manual, and they make sure the client's own teams are fully trained to evolve the prompt library and adapt the governance as AI tech keeps advancing.
So if we connect this whole structure discovery, planning, architecting, pilot, and handover to the bigger picture, you can really see the strategy.
Absolutely. This 5-phase structure is a repeatable delivery model. The frameworks, the prompt library, the governance insights they built for project management, they're all designed to be a modular blueprint for future AI rollouts across the whole company.
Whether it's HR or finance or R&D,
Exactly.
they're essentially turning their consulting expertise into a scalable product for driving AI adoption and focusing on measurable results, moving companies from that initial kind of vague curiosity to confident, structured execution.
And doing it responsibly. That word, responsibly, is so key. It's not just about deploying the latest model. It's about setting up the structures that can handle the sheer speed and scale of this stuff without creating chaos or security risks.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening, even if you aren't running a massive tech firm? This blueprint, it really shows the necessary steps for any organization or even just a small team to successfully integrate complex new tech. You have to assess the reality first. That's discovery. Then you set actionable goals and planning. You build support structures and governance and architecting.
The infrastructure.
But that's the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Then you test small with the pilot. And finally, you ensure self-sufficiency in the handover. It's really a change management structure that goes way beyond just technology.
We've seen how this strategic approach moves AI from being a fun, siloed experiment to a structured, repeatable business process. It's all centered on driving adoption of specific tools, like that internal LLM and the prompt library.
It's impressive how deliberately non-technical so much of the structure actually is. The real work isn't the code. It's the governance and the change management process around the AI.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought. This whole blueprint stresses governance and structured feedback loops, mostly built in Phase 3.
Right.
So if AI is essentially a high-speed, scalable tool for decision-making, whether it's generating content or summarizing data, the quality of that decision-making depends entirely on the processes and oversight you put in place before you hit scale.
And that structure has to be able to keep up with the pace of the technology itself.
Precisely. So the question to ask is, how prepared is your existing governance structure, your review teams, your compliance checks, to oversee something that changes as fast as AI does? Because without that structure, you aren't scaling value. You're just scaling risk. And that is the fundamental long-term challenge this blueprint really addresses.
Something to think about as you assess your own systems and how technology gets embedded in your work. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the blueprint for enterprise AI adoption. We'll catch you next time.